Well, what I'm really talking about is the way they're setting up the whole digital system that really enables them to have a lot more control on what the individuals can do. Because right now, we're separated, right? The IMF does everything through the banks. But when as we're moving forward and moving more into this digital age, well, then they're going to have absolutely direct access to the individual. And they're going to definitely monitor that and control that access, but that also enables them to control how the individual moves forward, whether it's financial or it's with anything else. So that's what I'm really referring to in there. And additionally, the IMF looks at different countries and gives them a different credit score. So in their lending facility, that gives them more control there as well. Well, keep in mind that what's happening right now with roughly, and I'm going to be diving into this more next week,
Okay.
on a global basis, you have the global central banks all examining or converting or working on converting their currencies into digital currencies, which would then translate into the IMF basket.
Right.
Right? And it makes it, once everything is really digital, it makes it much easier for the IMF to control the weighting and who is in that basket. So where the Fed would actually have the direct control to the individuals, the IMF would have the direct control over the central banks.
Right. Got it.
Right? So easy to translate policy, much easier than the current system. Well, I think we're experiencing that right now because in essence, we are all doing modern money theory,
right,
by just creating this money out of thin air. And, also in theory, you're right, because they create the money so they can always repay the debt. That's why most government debt is also AAA rated, because it's full faith and credit.
Right.
So that's going to have a huge, that's why confidence is so important. Because you really, honestly, tell me one central bank that actually has a positive P&L balance sheet. They don't, because what they've taken on is all garbage. So how can somebody's debt that can never be repaid, or those derivative bets, the legacy bets that they bought off of all the banks' balance sheets, the commercial banks' balance sheets.
Like mortgage-backed securities, right?
Exactly. Okay, you tell me how they have any value. They cannot sell them into the marketplace. Actually, I think it will change the average Joe and Jane's life by an extreme amount. And again, it's because of what they call nudging you in the direction that they want you to go in. Right. And this would be, I mean, they've been doing that forever. And financial repression, I have to bring that up because you mentioned if they explicitly do yield curve control. But in reality, if you look at a graph on the interest rates, they've really been using as a tool, as an admitted tool, financial repression for a very long time and it's particularly since 2008, by dropping those interest rates down to zero.
Right.
And keeping them there. So how has that impacted Joe and Jane, the savers, the people that are trying to generate income? It has pushed them out on the risk spectrum.
Right.
And that's even with quasi control. When they have absolute direct control and they want you to spend, they will just take you deeply into negative territory so that you can watch your principal evaporate knowing you're not spending it, and that will inspire you to go out and spend on anything to try and hold its value. So, average wage 9,571. Today, I think it's 52,000 or something like that. And on the surface, you go, well, yeah, I'd rather have that 52,000 than that 9,500. But a family of four could live on one wage at 9,500. And at
Yeah, right,
52,000, I mean, at 75,000, they're giving you a stimulus check. At 150,000 for two people, you're getting two stimulus checks.
right.
Because, and it really, it really does go back to the whole design of the system. And in 1971, critically, what the government did was hand over full control of inflation to a private central bank. And if you look at during all hyperinflationary events, the stock market goes straight up.
Yeah, right.
But after all, it is denominated in the currency that is going straight down.
Straight down faster, by the way.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I've never said it's that I think we're going to have a crash tomorrow. We're going to have no, they've already committed to supporting that stock market because that's what the central bank can do. They can just create more debt, more money. The government spends it. But look at how long they've been talking about infrastructure. And I was just looking at this yesterday. When you're looking at a graph, a long-term graph on infrastructure spending, it looks pretty abysmal. But they always pull that out and say, well, we've got to have infrastructure spending. So rather than giving it to those that are putting the money in the stock market, why don't you repair the roads and the bridges? Why don't you put more money into the schools and into the general infrastructure and into the energy grid? And that's going to be really, I think, a worldwide phenomenon that we're going to see, even if there isn't an attack on the grid. So, they can say anything they want and it sounds good, but personally, actions speak louder than words. And that's definitely true when you look at central banks and what they're doing for themselves, which is they're buying gold.
Yeah, right.
Why? It's an ancient relic. Why are you buying it?
Yeah.
Because they also know what they're doing to destroy the currency. And all of these people that are married to the legal money of the state. Over all these years, if you had an ounce of gold, you could buy a great suit of armor, you could buy a great men's suit, and you can still buy that great men's suit. It is just the opposite. And, yeah, you're right. You got me going on that because much as they say that there's not enough to fill the demand, there's plenty of gold out there. It's just the price at which they have suppressed.